We're all set, Councilor Memhard.
Okay. Hopefully you guys go fast. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Hi, Kenny, you feeling all right? Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Elise.
And Elise, hi, Elise.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. We're expecting Councillor Worthley to join us shortly. Hi, Jill. But this is the City of Gloucester Budget and Finance Committee meeting of April 4th, and we are in person at the Gloucester Harbor Master's office here on Harbor Loop. And we are also virtual online via Zoom. And we have myself, Councillor Scott Memhard from Ward 1 and Budget and Finance Chair, Councillor at Large, Tony Gross, Vice Chair, Gary Johnstone from the Assessor's Office. And I'm sorry, remind me of your name again?
Kevin Gargan,
Kevin Gargan. Thank you, Kevin. And you are with
EMS coordinator.
EMS
Fire
Coordinator. You don't look like Sander, so God bless it.
I'm blessed.
Yeah. Say your name one more time.
Kevin Gargan, Gargan.
Great. All right. And online, we have Clerk of Committees, Sherry White. We have Gemma Wilkins. We have Jill Cahill, CAO, Elise Sinagra, Senior Affairs, and Kenny Costa, Auditor. Is there anybody else I'm missing?
Connor McCorkle, the interim CFO.
Oh, is Connor with us as well?
Yes, virtually.
Okay, welcome, Connor.
Hello.
So unless there's a reason not to, we are expecting Councillor Jeff Wardley shortly, but I'll go ahead and start. And Elise, you're up first and foremost, as all elders should be, right?
That, I believe so. Thank you. Thank you for backing me up on that, Councilor Memhard.
Well, an increasing number of us qualify.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you down here at the Rose Baker Senior Center. Councilor
That's right.
Memhard, we gotta get you down here and get you a membership tag. So
So
yeah,
you're speaking to us concerning our acceptance of a state formula grant in the amount of $143,780.
right, and that's a formula grant that we do get every year. Those go to every council on aging from the State Executive Office of Elder Affairs. Last year it went up because our census went up, and we didn't know that in time to kind of budget for the full amount because it was announced and the funds were dispersed way after we go through our budgeting process. This year, we again got an unbudgeted increase in that formula grant because the governor very kindly increased the per senior amount. That's a formula grant because it's, you know, how many seniors we have times, you know, times a factor, and that factor went up. So that, so the, you know, the amount that we had budgeted for is that $128,520, because that was what we thought we were getting based on the $12 times the, you know, multiplied by the census estimate. And then what came back was the real census, not an estimate anymore, but the more fine-tuned figure, which is the 10,270. And that is now being multiplied by $14 per senior. So all of that means that we will pay, you know, that grant will go towards all the salary support that we had intended, and that's listed in the budget when we went through the budget process. But we do have a difference of $15,260, which is a nice situation to have. Is that I've got some money from the state, and they're pretty permissive about what they allow that formula grant to be spent. They just want it to be spent on stuff that's, you know, going to better the lives of the seniors in our community. So I've talked to some items, talked to the mayor's office about some of the things that I'd like to do with that money. I'm looking at an additional check-in station when seniors come here to the senior center. We want them to check in. We want good data. And everybody at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs and everybody that does kind of this line of work, everybody in Council on Aging, our universe here, we all know that our data is chronically, we're undercounted because so many seniors just don't want to take the extra steps that it takes to go over to our check-in station and scan in. And particularly here at the Rose Baker Senior Center, because our front door is out, you know, at the front of the building facing Dunkin' Donuts, but the parking lot where many of our seniors park is the other, clear out, you know, the other end of the building. So I've been, for some time now, I've been wanting to get an additional check-in station so that the seniors who come in the back door and they go straight into that dining hall to go do whatever they do. Because I beg, I plead, I cajole, I tell them all the time, it helps me keep the lights on, please scan in, but they don't. And it's really hard to kind of come down too hard on people because I know that for a lot of the folks that are coming in that back door, mobility is an issue. And taking those extra steps to go all the way over to the front desk and give us the data that we want is hard for them. So, so I'm looking at about, you know, close to $5,000, $4,500 for an additional check-in station that, so that we can get better data from My Senior Center, which is the database program that we use. So that's some of the stuff that one of the items I had, and just moments ago, like the staff just got trained on the brand new, unbelievable audio visual equipment that we have down here. It's insane. We went from the ridiculous to the sublime. We just got trained on this beautiful new movie screen. We're going to be able to have pizza and a movie here. It's just going to be amazing. But with all this great fancy new equipment came some additional needs. So we notice now that when that beautiful movie screen drops down in the dining hall, we have a little bit of silhouetting from these windows that are really high up. If everybody's familiar with the dining hall, you know that it's got that big high ceiling that's, you know, goes all the way up. So I've got a quote from the curtain shop. Well, actually, they're working on a quote. He didn't return me the quote yet, but he did say it's a little bit pricey to put blinds up that high because they need to be motorized. And we don't want to lose that natural light all the time. We just want the ability to press a button and have blinds come down and block out that light just when we're using that movie screen. So that I've been told is a little bit pricey, and some of this money, which is kind of, you know, unexpected money from the state. Now I can look at doing that and doing it right and making sure that the blackout shades that we get from way up high will kind of go up and down with just the touch of a button. And that's going to be a little bit pricey too. So those two things alone are going to eat up a good amount of that kind of marginal found money, if you will, from the state. And then we wanted to use the rest of it for program support. We've got, again, because we have these new improved capabilities down here, we can do things like have pizza and a movie night. And that's what I'm hoping to do. I've already been talking to the mayor's office about the fact that because the BCCs are going to be meeting in this building here and there, we're going to need custodial coverage anyway for those meetings. So we might as well piggyback now that we're going to have a custodian here anyway. We can kind of piggyback now that we have that opportunity to maybe put some early evening programming in place and capture some of those seniors who are on the younger side of what it means to be a senior. Maybe they're still working. They can't get here before 4 o'clock. You know, if we can get them down here for maybe like an event that runs from 5 to 7, like something like a pizza and a movie, but that stuff all costs money, and it's money that I didn't ask for because I didn't have the fancy new AV equipment at the time to even know to ask for it. So now this money that I didn't expect from the state is kind of, you know, jiving with these cool opportunities now that we have because of these upgrades. So.
Sounds excellent, especially the scanning in system, if it allows you to capture those additional folks that are enjoying your services but weren't being quantified and will in turn generate more revenue from the state.
Exactly, and to know what it is that they're doing when they hear, you know what I mean? So we can do a better job of fine tuning our programming and knowing what it is, you know, what are they coming in here for? What's popular, what's not, just to give us the, you know, all that important data that we want.
Councilors, any other questions? Councilor Gross?
No, this is it's really nice to get this increase. Thank you to the governor for increasing it to $2 per senior.
Mhm.
Updating, but so we're tied into this for the next 10 years. This will be there'll be no census change or anything for the next 10 years.
There won't be a census change. I mean, I look back into the history of the formula grant, the amount per senior, and once they go up, they don't usually come back down. So I think that we'll continue to get that $14 per senior. You know, I don't know, the state, of course, I'm sure everybody's watching the news and seeing that the state revenues are looking a little shaky and scary and stuff, but I'm not hearing anybody talking about that amount, that per senior amount going down, and we won't have another census for a while. So yeah, so that should be the figure that we can count on, for a bit at least.
Great.
I would like to recognize our purchasing agent, Stacy Capone, welcome, and also Councillor Worthley. Oh, and a police chief, or a
No,
fire chief,
no,
or
never.
a chief,
One of those.
one of the chiefs. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
Good.
Sorry.
So I'll go ahead and read the motion. If there are no further questions, the committee would recommend. The Budget and Finance Committee would recommend the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A, a Massachusetts State Fiscal Year 2024 Council on Aging Formula Grant allocation from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Elder Affairs in the amount of $143,780. There's no local matching requirements for the state grant, and the grant period is from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, and I so move.
Second.
Further discussion? Councillor?
2 quick points. First, Elise, thank you for making this easy for us. I love everything you're doing at the senior census, so keep it up. I don't think I can vote on this because I came in before the start of the presentation.
I don't know, you read it, didn't you?
I did read it.
You can vote on it.
Okay, just to be clear.
That being.
You're here for the discussion part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes on a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed, unanimously. Thank you
Awesome.
again.
Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
All good news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2 on our budget and finance agenda tonight is a memorandum from the purchasing agent who's with us, as I just introduced, regarding a draft contract number 24120 for the Gloucester House sign lease location. Stacy, maybe you can give us a little background on this? Or Jill?
And Gary's there also. The assessors came up with a price for like $1,200 for the lease space for the Gloucester House sign. And all the information is in the packet. If you have any questions.
Councilors?
Just a quick question. Sorry, when we got the packet last week, are we under any obligation to do sort of open bidding for I know we are saying this is what it's worth to the Gloucester House, but there could be like Seven Seas Whale Watch, which rents from the Gloucester, they may say they'd rather have the sign and they pay more. Is there a process we need to go through to get the highest bid, or is it? It's far to me.
So the requirements by law, you don't need to bid it. So, we don't bid it, but I mean, you have a good point. We could do that. I don't know if they'd be interested, but.
I'm not asking to change the process. I
Oh.
just want to make sure that this process is legal, because I know there are times when we have to, if we're spending money, we go with the lowest bid, and if we're getting money, we go with the highest bid. So I want to just throw that out there for discussion. I don't have for me, it's not, I know someone will pay more. That's not the point. I just want to make sure we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's, and I respect that this is an option, but I don't know if this covers everything that we're required to do. So I just want to throw it there as a question.
Yep, so it doesn't meet the requirements for bidding. So we're covered there.
Doesn't meet the requirements for bidding. I don't have any further questions about that process.
Councilor Rose?
I also understand that this little strip of land, is the site for our electric charger too, so we're sort of doing the air rights here, not necessarily the total land rental. Is that the case, Gary?
It's not really a land rental, any to do with their renting the sign space. Or, the existing sign space.
And we're utilizing
And
some
we're
of that
using
same.
some of that same space on the ground level. Because they ended up putting a charging station right there.
Great, all right, thanks. That was my question.
Who owns the charging station? The city of Gloucester?
I assume so. They're all over.
So with that charging,
Yeah,
and
I think
The city of Gloucester owns that charging station,
then the electricity costs are borne by the city?
borne by the city.
It's not-
Gemma, not that, it's not in front of you now, but at another time, if you want to talk about it. Anyway, Gemma's working on a larger project about charging stations throughout the city, but that's not the matter in front of you today, so.
look forward to that.
But
too.
yes, we do own them and we do pay for them. But there's like I said, a larger initiative going on. One of
Yeah.
those was recently broken, so, but I believe it's fixed.
Thank you. I have no questions.
Councilor Gross, you good?
I'm good.
If there are no further questions, I'll go ahead and read the motion, which is to move to recommend the city council approve the disposition by means of a lease as provided in sign location lease agreement number 24120 for the Gloucester House sign lease at 45 Rogers Street between the city of Gloucester and the Gloucester House Restaurant LLC pursuant to the terms and conditions stated therein. Said term is to be 5 years from January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2028. And I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously. Gloucester House sign shall stay lighted. Item number 3 is a memorandum from our purchasing agent regarding a draft contract 24121 regarding Witham Street parking lease. Jill, I sent you a question. I don't know if you saw that on email this afternoon.
I did not, sorry, I've not been in front of my computer today. I will look for it now if you want.
The question is simply, if we want to postpone this matter until you have had a chance to meet with John Paul Martinetti about their interest in changing the terms of the lease to potentially being a year-round lease to accommodate their renovations at their Good Harbor Beach Inn.
Yeah, I don't think so at this time. Obviously, it's the will of the council. I'm guessing you talked to him. He asked for our thoughts on that.
Yeah.
You said he couldn't be here tonight?
He called me, but he was trying to reach to you. I referred him to you and he said he had an appointment perhaps next week with you.
With me, yeah. But I did tell him, just so you guys know, the response from Stacy reached out to both Mike Hale and the mayor's office. Both of us felt like there wasn't a public benefit to the city to reserve that parking for the inn throughout the winter for 2 reasons mainly. One, the access to the beach in the winter, particularly when it's cold, people walking their dogs, it's nice to allow them to have those closer parking spots in the off season. And we don't see that his guests will have issues using additional parking spots. It might even be better solved to say it's resident parking there only in the summer. It might be better solved that way than giving them exclusive rights. I'd hate to see those 11 spots reserved all winter while our residents have to go park 11 spots down when there's no, you know what I mean? There's not a parking crunch at that point in time, right? So we don't see a benefit to the city from the recommendation of the mayor's office and the DPW director. So I don't see a need to continue. If you'd like me to meet with them and reconsider that and bring you something to, bring a further opinion, but that's our theory is that's the one time a year parking should not be an issue. And if we want to look at whether or not we make that strip resident parking only in the summer high season so that they wouldn't get ticketed in the off season, I'd rather handle it that way.
Councilor Worthley.
Thank you for that, Jill. You said that there isn't a public interest in reserving those spots for the inn in the off season. Could you help me understand what the public interest is in reserving those spots for the inn during the season?
So that's all about hotel rooms taxes, right? That's a large, that's a large, as you know, right? You're in the chamber business. A large piece of our funding we have, and then again, the residents have access to the larger lot, which isn't always open in the winter. So the residents have a whole different level of access in the summer. And we definitely benefit from the rooms tax during the high season.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, this isn't to debate you on that, just to kind of have this conversation. The rooms tax is important. People paying to stay there, that they get to park their car there. And do we still do discounted parking for people who go to hotels and motels? It used to be a $5 pass.
Nope.
We don't do that
No,
anymore?
not currently, but that's only because of the change in the parking system, because we've had 2 different changes in the last 2 years. This will be our first consecutive year with Blink A, right? So that's not off the table. It's something we're working towards under the new parking system because we don't have the voucher system. So it's not off the table. It just wasn't we weren't able to implement it as we implemented the new parking system. So that's
Yeah.
still a possibility. For those
Yeah,
same
just-
reasons, exactly.
Right, and I think the fairness question then comes to, other hotels don't get free places to park their tenants, their guests' cars.
Not free, not to interrupt you, Counselor, but it's not free. That's what you get to determine the price you want to charge them tonight. That's up to you.
Good point, thank you. They don't have access to say, we'd like to have them park on the back shore because there's a parking lot there. We don't have access. Why? I can see pros and cons on this, but wouldn't it make sense that if 11 more cars parked there, that means 11 more spaces would be available in the parking lot? In theory, we could charge, and I see the numbers in here. Does this reflect the current? This is a $35 per space.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Mark wasn't able to get them the updated numbers because our system's actually better now, so I can't answer that question. But again, that's, we put this forward, we think it's worth it. And if you don't, Counselor, should vote against it.
Thank you. Or is there a scenario we could vote for a higher number? Do we have to advertise that, or is
I
that,
believe you set the number.
okay,
And after having had the pleasure of a conversation with the new inn owner, I think they're just simply building off the precedent of what was made available historically by the city to the old inn operators. And they're in the process of making a substantial reinvestment to restore the inn and make it more flood resistant and the rest of it. And they have, I think, a total of 18 rooms in the inn, and they have a limited number of parking immediately in front on their own property. So they've relied on this additional relationship, generating reserve parking for their guests for some time. And I think it's part of their business plan probably going forward, that they need this for their bank.
and that I understand.
Yeah.
And then you have parking on the street as you turn up, which I don't think is still with them at that point,
Salt Island Road.
Salt Island Road, and that's their property?
Yes.
It's not just street property?
Yes.
Okay. This is not the hill to die on, and I'm happy to vote for it as is. I just want to think those things through. Thank you, Joe.
Councilor Gross.
I'm not inclined to continue this to go for year round. This rate was increased in 2021. That's a fairly recent history in Gloucester terms. So, and the assessor, Mr. Johnson has, given us the information that says that this is, a fair market. So I would prefer just to move this forward.
I'm good with it.
So. Any other questions or discussion? Budget and Finance would move to recommend that the City Council approve the disposition by means of a lease as provided as in lease agreement 24121 for the Witham Street parking area at 99 Thatchers Road between the City of Gloucester and the Good Harbor Beach Inn Corporation pursuant to the terms and conditions stated here therein. Said term is to be 3 years from May 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2027, and I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Okay.
Escape right to that back door.
Yeah. Our next item, number 4, is our memorandum for the EMS Emergency Management Services Coordinator regarding Gloucester Fire Department's ambulance billing and collection policy. This is an annual education for all of us in the ins and outs of ambulance billing and tracking people who pay or can pay, and the extent to which the city fulfills its public responsibilities by stepping up to cover any deficit. But I'd like to welcome Kevin. And before we go, we just have the recognition of Sandra Schultz and his contribution to this role for many, many, many years in the staff loss to your department and our community and his family.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sandra was a good friend and mentor to me. He's definitely going to be missed.
Yeah, it's a man.
It was. So I'm here to report off our bad debt write-off which is at the amount of $597,534. And it's through June 30th of 2022. And these are people who are unwilling to pay, people who we don't, are unable to identify, can't track down, or don't have the means to pay. This is where this uncollectible debt comes from. As well as what our ambulance service billing and collection policy is in this report as well. Also, what we collect from Massachusetts Ambulance Service Cost Report Portal, which is $331,186, which goes into the general fund annually.
So there's, as we've identified in the past, there's this little subsidy or offset to this deficit with the states.
Yeah, and it kicks in part because of Medicare, and Medicaid and CMS that operates, and they identify that public EMS services are more expensive to operate and run, because we don't skimp on the equipment we buy. You know, the rates of pay and benefits are typically a bit higher because of, you know, the private ambulances and so forth are typically more of an entry level thing, a little more revolving. So the pay rates are a little bit less. So there's that differential in what it costs a city to provide an ambulance service versus what a private ambulance does, and the differential between that. So they look to try to offset that. That program will inevitably go away as CMS is trying to incorporate in their rate scales that they build out on a more individual community by community, service by service basis. And that we will have a rate that fits with our costs, and there's a reporting thing, and poor Kevin's stuck doing all this paperwork. So yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, insurance is so much fun.
No, better you than me. Actually,
It does take time.
it's a challenge, and it's discouraging, but again, we're providing a vital service. Does the cost reflected here, is it strictly our charge for ambulance services, or is the associated attendance by a patrol car or other piece of equipment?
So the costs basically off of the interventions that we take place, the mileage that takes place. So there'd be like we call it basic life support. There's a certain amount of interventions that take place, something that's more advanced life support, or advanced life support 2 to be a higher rate, which sets it.
And then they base their adjustments on that extra stipend, if you will, that we get the check, but usually June.
Yes.
And so that is a culmination of all our costs that Kevin, I don't know how many data points get put in there, but it's a huge spreadsheet. I don't know, 2-3 days of work minimally, like full days of giving them everything that we do and spend, and then they look at it and go, okay, based on, you know, the average across the country, you get a little bit of an offset because, you know, you're in New England, cost of living is higher, wages are a bit higher, and here's a little extra to try to balance the scale of cost to, you know, service.
Councilor Gross, any question?
No, I feel like deja vu from last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now, it's a necessary evil, but a lot of these, patients are, I would assume, are unable to pay too.
Yeah, they're either not insured, not able to pay. Some of them, we don't really have good quality information to even run down who they are. If we didn't have a name, they have no ID, they get in the hospital system, and if they don't survive whatever event, you know, the hospital's got their expense that they don't recover. We have ours that we don't recover, and it's just the nature of the business, unfortunately.
Life, illness, and death.
Yep.
And taxes.
And it's not a money-making venture by the city, right? It's not a.
We all count on it.
It's a cost offset to provide the service, recover as much as we possibly can, and take care of the community to the
best.
you know, the extent that we can, which we do a great job doing that. The recovery of the funding is obviously huge to make it work. Otherwise it becomes unsustainable. And at this point, we're doing pretty well, and Kevin is managing it outstandingly, so.
Thank you, Kevin. If there are no other
I
questions,
have a few questions.
okay, sure.
I support what you're doing, and I'm voting for it. I have to understand this a little bit differently or better. We don't incur more costs. Well, hang on. If we write this off, everyone's been paid,
Yep.
right? And whether you're working a fire or sleeping or anything in between, or on a medical call, our costs are constant, right? So that an additional call, does it cost us more money? Obviously, it depends on if there's treatment, but are we losing money? We're not able to bill this or collect money, but are we losing money?
So this is money that's written off, that's non-collectible. So we don't, I don't view it as a loss of revenue. Our total numbers, I don't know what's the total technical billings are.
Yeah, so
5
like
million or something
Oh.
incredible.
About 6.4 million.
6.4 million, so that doesn't go back into your budget though.
And we don't even collect all that because that's not what Medicare will pay. That is what we billed for. Then the federal government says, yeah, that's nice, but you only get this much. And then private ambulance, private insurance typically pays the full amounts or close to it. And then the private pays, right, the individuals with no insurance, they either pay some, they pay part, they pay none. And so we end up with an income. So when you see it in budget, we account and expect to bring in receivables about 1.5 million. We bill for almost 6 million.
Wow.
But this is just how the industry works, right? Private ambulance, us, the hospitals, it's all the same. When you look at the bill for $40 for an aspirin at the hospital and your insurance company goes, no, we'll pay you 20 for it.
Right.
They just lost half of what they
But these are
wanted to
for
get.
actual services that are provided. It doesn't, there are some direct costs, whether it's supply.
Yeah, and on a call by call basis, like what you were saying, if we're going on more calls, does it incur more cost? It certainly does with brakes and fuel and all of that. But each of those calls, if it's a transport, it gets billed. If we recover, great. Some that we don't transport, but we did treatments on scene, that's also been in our billing ability for a $500 charge, to at least recoup costs of all the meds that he's buying and all the expense that goes into it. So
So I have to sort of think in extremes to understand it. If there were somehow no medical calls for a whole year, everyone in your department gets paid the same amount of money.
and we would be short 1.5 million that we identify in the budget as our likely income. That is fairly conservative. We usually do better than that, but usually about 1.5 is the number that gets inserted into the budget as an expected amount of EMS revenue.
Okay, but you're not out 6.5 million in additional costs because your salary employees are
Yeah,
still.
the billables is like the pie in the sky number if we got every
But
penny.
your
Just-
costs to run your department don't change with more cost, aside from fuel and things like you.
Yeah, no,
Right.
they're static.
So, and then the 1.5 that you do collect on the 6.4, that goes to the fire department or the general
Those
fund?
are everything we bring in revenue, whether it be EMS revenue or permitting fees, inspection fees, all the way goes into the general fund.
Sorry, I just gotta digest that for a second. So aside from the work you already do, medical calls make money for the city.
They don't really make money because at
The
the end of the
1.5
day,
million.
when you look at what, if you were to crunch out all the numbers for cost of people, vehicles, equipment, supplies and everything else, we may be in the break even range,
Yeah.
maybe.
But you're still there.
But no,
Fighting fires.
you're there fighting fires, but you don't need the EMS portion.
Right, so if we
So you
didn't
can
run on
do
any
all that.
EMS calls and we weren't gonna transport, then we would need less people and wouldn't need the ambulances. The issue is that
I got it.
we'll never get out from the first responding piece like every other department. So
Oh, I
most
wasn't
departments
suggesting
in
that, yeah.
New England that don't run an ambulance, they're still going on almost all these calls. But now they're going with a more expensive truck per mile to operate. They don't get any billing and revenue and income, so a lot of people look at us and go, wow, we should have done this 20 years ago like you guys did, but they're not really in a position
Right.
to jump. I could tell you now with not Chelsea, but Revere. So Revere Fire operated like a typical New England fire department. They did not have an ambulance. They first responded. Now they're running 3, 4.
Yeah.
So they stood up 3 or 4 ambulances in the last 2 years because of the shortage in personnel, ambulance availability, and the whole myriad of things that you see playing out in the industry now.
I just
So
want to
they-
be clear, I wasn't suggesting we do away with EMS. It's the most important service to probably provide, and I think it's the one they have more calls on EMS stuff than fire.
Oh, certainly.
Right, so that wasn't, get rid of it, it's how I have to think through like, where's the money come from? So then there's this 1.5 million that you do collect, and then there's this other money that you can't collect, and then there's this write-off. Do we have some agency that is doing collections on this money?
Yeah, so the billing company manages all of that in the background. It does not go to a traditional collections agency because we've done that at least 2 times that I've been here, and we've netted literally $0 because the billing companies are really good at doing their job. And they basically, that's incorporated into their process. And to go to a billing company, to a collections agency to get that money has netted us 0 results in 2 attempts. So we've just, and in those cases, they're on a percentage basis too. It's just much higher.
Mhm.
But they brought us no dollars, so they got no dollars back from the city. Our current rate with our billing company is at 5.5%. And I can tell you, when I left Westland Fire over 12 years ago, we paid 10%.
Let's keep the deal up.
Yeah, so,
Right.
so I think we're way ahead of the game, and the income stream that we get is a great offset for the cost that service impacts on the community and adds to the fire department budget. So I think it's still a good balance. I don't think there's a better way of providing that service to the citizens privately or some hybrid. If there is, we haven't come up with it yet, so.
If there is, you'd find it. I just want to be very clear. My questions, some people ask questions to poke holes at something. I just want to understand it, and I appreciate being educated. So I'm good to support this. And
Thank you.
Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
And as well, I'm sorry for the loss too.
Thank you.
It's a big loss.
It is.
Thank you for the education.
Councilor Gross, anything else?
No.
Okay. Budget and Finance moves to recommend that the City Council approve the Gloucester Fire Department billing and collection policy as presented by the Captain EMS Coordinator and approved by the Mayor, and further to approve the proposed fee schedule attached to and incorporated into the policy effective July 1st, 2024. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the second part of the motion, Budget and Finance Committee recommends that the City Council authorize the write-off of $597,534 in uncollectible outstanding ambulance billing, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No further questions? All right.
You may have to come to the full council to explain.
Easy enough.
Tuesday. There are a couple of new councilors, and it is a big nut,
Yeah.
as Councilor Wardley reminds us, to crack and people wrap your heads around.
Yeah, and that amount of funding, and Kevin can correct me if I'm off, but that never leaves our billing company or our uncollected debt, and that those folks owe that. So if there's a court case or some kind of litigation going on, somebody's accident policy on their auto finally gets settled
Mhm.
and there's payment rendered for that still comes back in.
Mhm.
So we don't see a lot of it.
Right.
But it may trickle in months, years down the road, so.
You just are running it off the books for the budget cycle.
Right, so
Yes.
this is really to help Kenny keep things cleaner,
Mhm.
otherwise he's constantly chasing stuff that's way too old for him to try to corral and manage in the budget process with DOR.
If you can't make it Tuesday night, I've learned enough tonight to help if there's questions to advocate for. I feel
Yeah, it
like,
shouldn't be a
Tony, I
problem.
feel like the 3 of us probably know better than we did, or at least I know better than I did 20 minutes ago, so thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we voted on that motion.
Yep.
And the final item, or next to last item here, is a memorandum from the
Yeah,
Sustainability
awesome.
Coordinator, Emma Wilkins, regarding the HEET Kickstarter Networked Geothermal Feasibility Study, and I look forward to learning about this, Gemma. Welcome.
Hi, how are you all? So essentially, this is a no-cost feasibility program. It's offered as an accelerator. 10 communities in Massachusetts are participating to try and identify communities where National Grid could potentially implement one of 4 network geothermal feasibility studies that they have been approved by the DPU to conduct. So it would essentially be a feasibility study that would look at the potential for a shared geothermal heating system across 5 facilities at the high school and surrounding facilities. I want to be clear that the technology is not necessarily new or untested. I think probably most of you have heard of a geothermal heating system being used in people's homes. It's also been used in a campus setting, which is essentially networked geothermal. What's sort of novel here and why National Grid is funding these pilot programs is the ability to connect buildings that are not on a single lot, that are separated by roads. Currently, the regulation doesn't allow that to happen, but National Grid is in a unique position because they have existing rights to facilitate utility hookup across different properties. So they're essentially, conducting these 4 feasibility studies to test the proposition that that's a service that they should provide. And whether or not Gloucester ends up being one of those communities that participates in the pilot, it's really exciting because it could potentially make geothermal heating, which is a really efficient form of heating, much more accessible, in that, instead of having to drill a geothermal well on individual lots, you could have multiple properties sharing a geothermal system. And not only would you be able to share the cost, but you actually, the geothermal system sort of stores energy and is able to distribute waste energy across the buildings. So it's a really unique pilot program. If we were to, find through the study, which there are lots of questions to answer, that this is something we think would make sense in that neighborhood around the high school, including the high school, one of the real driving forces behind us participating is National Grid has been extremely generous in terms of the pilot programs they've conducted so far in investing in the buildings on those systems, investing in the infrastructure of those buildings. So in Lowell, for example, they have basically covered the cost to fully electrify all the buildings on the system. So that means, updating the heating systems in all of the buildings. In the homes that they're including, in the one in Lowell had residential homes on that system as well. They've updated all of the appliances, backup generation. Pretty much all of those costs were covered as part of that study. So, as part of that pilot. So we think it's worthwhile. It's pretty low threshold in terms of what, I would have to do. We have buy-in from all of the property owners in the area. I don't know if you saw the map that was that I included in your packet, but it's Gloucester High School, the Open Door, Lincoln Park, that's the Gloucester Housing Authority, Pathways for Children, and the Division of Marine Fisheries. They're all sort of going along for the ride to, learn if this could be a possible solution in that area for, our heating needs. And if it is a good solution, we'll see if we can attract the National Grid pilot program to help us implement it and pay for it.
Sounds excellent, really far visioned going forward, and could be a wonderful opportunity for all those neighborhood entities that you just mentioned. So it's really exciting. Councilors, questions?
This is very exciting. John, you must be quite pleased with this opportunity to be able to experiment and find out, well, not experiment, but see what the feasibility study says. Be interesting to see, where they're drilling down and it's going to be all below water line. But it's still earth heat, so it's transfer, whether it's in, wet soil or dry soil, it's still heat transfer. And I think that this is could be a much bigger, combatant for climate change than anything else we've seen. It's geothermal. it's not unsightly, it's not invasive, it's not loud. It's, it just is, it's just there and it's in the ground and you drill a well, you know, that lasts for probably 50 years. So this is exciting. I'm thrilled and I hope that we pass the threshold to be able to pull something off here.
Councilor Worthley.
Yeah, so again, thank you, Gemma. You do excellent work bringing the things to us and also presenting them. That was very helpful. The only thing I want to draw your attention, looking at the map, the high school was built on a dump. So as this moves forward, just be sensitive to whatever,
Even more heat.
I know, but also
Extra methane in there too.
potential toxic stuff. So just whoever's, I know that's further way down the line and there's
It was before-
contractors.
It was before humans started creating all these toxic
Yeah,
chemicals.
no plastics down there.
Anyway, I just want to raise that, but
Of course.
I love it. I'm excited for you and good job. Thank you.
You're here. I'll go ahead and read the motion. Budget and Finance moves to recommend that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A, a state grant from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Technology Center and passed through the Massachusetts Home Energy Efficiency Team for the Kickstart Massachusetts grant program in the amount of $50,000 for the purpose of conducting community engagement projects and conduct feasibility studies to assess potential sites for networked geothermal projects. The grant period is from March 27th, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, and there is an in-kind match of a limited number of staff hours, and I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes enthusiastically, 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Carry on, please.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Drill, 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 baby. Somebody.
Thank you,
It's
Gemma.
actually the opposite of that, right? But
Well,
in a
no,
way.
in this
No, it's
case,
still drilling.
Yeah,
it's an outdated drilling. Thanks, Gemma.
Looked into doing it at my house.
Yeah,
It's kind of expensive.
the infrastructure, the initial capital investment is
Yeah.
But maybe this will discover that there's a way to do it with less
a
expensive.
big, old wonderful pilot.
Well, doing one, site for multiple buildings is,
More efficient, right?
yeah.
More sustainable.
We have to respect the fact that Kenny's under the weather, but he's still hanging in there with us tonight. And
We don't have a naughty boy report.
we skipped that. So is there anything else that needs our attention tonight, Kenny, in terms of your auditor's review and related business?
So, good evening, councilors. I did send, the naughty report, we skipped it this time. This time we sent the 2 reports, so this gives you a little bit of both. It gives you the naughty report and the good list, all in the same report. As you know, it's a lot more, many more pages to review, to look at. So the school, it's in its own separate report. And then there's the city report. I mean, unless the councilors have any questions, the information is all there. Again, one report is the school general fund. The other report is the city general fund and the 4 enterprise funds. But it gives you a snapshot through the first 9 months of the fiscal year through March 31st.
Great, appreciate it. And I don't have any questions.
Thank
I
you.
prefer you save your throat and your voice if you can, but
Yeah.
I can't speak for my fellow councilors if there are any particular concerns.
The only question I'm gonna ask is, I haven't read all of these. Could we make this another agenda item? It could be that we have no questions at that point, but
You can always bring it back. Absolutely.
so do I at that, okay,
You just revisit at the next meeting.
okay. I like to do that then, just have a revisit and maybe after looking at it, I've got a
Fine.
question.
Yeah, instead of the other report, we'll just roll this one in. And leave it at this date,
Perfect.
so that we can, so we're all talking about this, it'll be 2 weeks old at that point, but.
That's fine. We don't need new information, haven't even read this yet.
Right,
Uh,
yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. If that works for everybody, I'm
Yeah.
happy to just,
yeah, no, that's good.
thank you, Ken.
I would therefore accept a motion to adjourn.
Could you make a motion to continue that item? Or should we just put it on?
You just have to bring it back up.
Just tell him and he has to do it.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
Remind me.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a
Second.
motion to yourself to remind me to.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, fellow councilors. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Aye. Good night, Sherry.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Sherry,
Thanks,
and,
Sherry.
Good night.
hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. Slowly but surely. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, guys.